Hey everyone. First of all, I'd like to apologize for being late with this review. Like I mentioned in my post yesterday, I had a lot of things coming up that were unexpected, so if I were to make a funny pun, due to unforeseen circumstances, I wasn't able to make that one, but yeah, there were a few things that I didn't want to postpone any longer, so all of that caused the delay. I'm very sorry about that. I will do the Yuna review next week on time on Friday as per usual though. Anyway, Maeve, our latest physical magical tank combination. This is a super long review, mind you, because she is a 2-in-1 unit. So there's lots of things to talk about. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Base form, physical tank, brave shift, magical tank, and most of it is tied to Clash of Wills, especially the actually good things. So let's take a glance at her kit. Can triple cast innately, has the 75% general mitigation on demand, which is very, very good. It's also her provoke ability at the same time, 65% Dragon Beast mitigation at the same time, which is excellent, especially because it's not tied to any morale shenanigans, which is really, really good. Can cure all status, or provide, not cure, can increase resistance against all status ailments to all allies, a break immunity to all allies, stop and charm immunity for all allies. It's really good. Also 50% general mitigation. She has her own 75. Can also give the party 50, which is good. Another thing I'd like to mention is the elf resistance buff, Run Wild. Let's not forget the 65% physical mitigation, natural protection, the 70 to 85% cover mitigation, so 77.5 if I'm not totally napkin mathing this out of my way, but should be fine. 77.5, yeah, is the average. So it's all these stats, they are really, really good. And has a defense scaling morale ability, practiced swing. You saw me use that in my fast clear for Threshen. Also has that Earth Amp, which is rather cool. And yeah, and the only thing which she's actually lacking, and which is a downside of hers, but she doesn't need it, honestly, is an emergency cooldown, much like, say, Gebranth or Behemoth have. She doesn't have that. She doesn't have that. Is it a downside, though? The answer might be no. Well, the answer is yes and no. No for the physical part, because, as you will see, spoiler alert, she is our best physical tank. But as for the magical side of things, as we will see later down in the review, she really could have used an emergency cooldown, which she doesn't have. Okay, so let's go over to the passive side of things. Nothing too really surprising. One thing I'd like to point out is she has 5x cap naturally, and she does have enough room in her gearing when gearing for defenses without having to pay extra attention to, say, absurd amounts of resistances. She technically should have one slot available for the 6x cap. The question is, though, will you ever need this on her? And I would doubt it. Another thing I'd like to point out, she does have the 50% physical magical evasion, which I personally like a lot. Makes gearing her for full evasion very, very easy and comfortable. And she also has almost immediate full magic evasion. I think 60% is the maximum you can reach. So she almost got that, which is good. Other than that, Battle S1, it's tied to morale stuff. And here we have two very bad things all at once. It's never furl. It's at below 80% activation condition, and need assistance is below 50% unlock condition, and we'll get to that in a second. The TMR bonus is another true single wheel defense, which is very cool. And very, very important, resourceful nature at the start of the battle upon revival or after Brave Shift, that is an auto cover ability. So you should always make sure to either wear her Trustmaster or Super Trustmaster. So these are the passive activation things, and I'd like to point your attention towards the middle three: never fear, you're a natural, and need assistance. Now, as we've seen, never fear and need assistance are basically the two ones, the two best ones, A, and B, the two ones you will never be able to use. Never fear, 80% or lower morale. She steals attack, defense, magic, SPR breaks from all allies and removes them from the caster. It's such a good ability or passive. Too bad it is tied to below 80 morale, which you will never see unless you deliberately want to tank your morale, which is not good. You will never do this. And even less so is need assistance ever going to happen. This is below 50 morale. You'd have to be doing this on purpose to get to 90% damage mitigation and a 90% cover mitigation. Yeah, this is cool on paper, but when you then consider the downsides of it, A, the 90% general mitigation lasts only one turn. B, having to have 50% or lower morale. This is almost pushing the bar for the boss to do his strongest morale ability. I think it's tied to 40 on your side, so minus 160. You're never reaching that. And this is one of the greatest issues. She has cool stuff like you're a natural. Yeah, that's 120 on your side. So this is when you do things the way you're supposed to do, right? And tying the 150 Beast and Dragon Killer to a morale passive that unlocks by having high morale. It's such bad game design, and it also means that her usefulness outside of Clash of Will is basically none. Because we have units such as Celeste. She can buff killers, dragon, I think, aquatic. No, it's not dragon, it's aquatic. No, she also has dragon. I don't know. She has killers. Full stop. Yeah, she unlocks them at EX plus 3. Yes, but at least she can use them outside of Clash. And that's the issue with Maeve and all the most recent Clash of Wills units we've gotten anyway. So yeah, those are the greatest, well, from my point of view, the greatest design weaknesses of Maeve. And I think they really dampen her usefulness in general. Well, she is a superb tank in Clash of Wills, no doubt about it. But as you will see, comparing her to the other tanks, especially in terms of party support and all, she doesn't really feel that special anymore. So Maeve's Limit Burst in base form, 120 physical with defense scaling. If you're in Clash, this goes up to 320 max. Increases defense by 350 for all party members, which is nice, and 5 evasion stacks, which is cool. And the thing I like, it's a single hit, so it's good. It's decent for, well, it's not even decent, 320x, but let's be honest, it is, for a tank, it's decent, especially with the defense values she can reach. It's okay. Let's call it okay. I think we can live with that. Brave Shift, it's pretty much a carbon copy, but it all says magic most of the time. Practiced Lure, same thing as before. The only real differences start here with Natural Wall. This is magic mitigation, but the same values. The only downside to the magical part of her is that while other magic tanks, Phys, Celeste or Beatrix, they do have physical mitigation. Maeve does not, unless you force her to have it from being in base form one turn. Yeah, she has true Brave Shift, but if the boss constantly deals magic mitigation or magic damage, you kind of want her always in the Brave Shift for the high spirit. And if the boss also, like for example, take for example Behemoth, while Maeve would be perfectly suitable for that fight. Now imagine Behemoth dealing the 5 physical attacks next to some magical attacks. That'd be an issue for Maeve, because she wouldn't be able to handle both at the same time. Does she have to? Not particularly, but it'd be nice, right, to be able to handle both. But yeah, I mean, this is really nitpicky at this point. I still feel like she's a very, very good magic tank, but it could have been a little bit better by including some form of physical mitigation. It wouldn't have to be high, just 50% would have been enough. Phase and Celeste don't have that much either, so could have been something, right? And the rest of it is pretty much a carbon copy with just different names. I'd like to point out Wild Barrier, which is a 19,000 HP barrier at max morale. Will you ever reach that? Probably, unless the boss, like the current one, is rather tricky and you don't actually need that morale-based barrier. It's nice to have if they ever make a boss that really wants you to use barriers. Other than that, the passive side of things, pretty much a carbon copy, just different names, just different values. Like she has a lot of true single-wield spirit now instead of the defense, so she innately, with her Trustmaster equip, is at 350 true dual wield or true single-wield spirit, which is very nice, very, very nice. Also retains 5x cap. The passive activation skills remain the same, so no changes, still the same complaints though. And the Brave Shift is just a 50x Earth Magic, SPR scaling ability to all enemies, one hit. Yeah, it's not really anything really strong. The only good part here is the 25,000 HP barrier at max morale. Again, you're probably never gonna use this or need this, because at the point where you are at max morale, you are very likely to finish the boss or move to the next transition phase. You're probably never gonna need this. Okay, Trustmaster, Super Trustmaster. Her Trustmaster, heavy armor, 100 defense and spirit, 30 HP and 30% Earth Dark resistance. And let me just put this out right off the way. I think this is a very, very strong TMR armor piece. Now, this is heavy armor, mind you, so it's not always usable by many. But the values in general, both SPR and defense, they are rather high for a TMR level. And I think it's good. It's sadly a heavy armor type, not clothes, but still, it's really good. I mean, the STMRs, they are either 105 spirit, for example, or 115, which are the highest ones. So I think it's good. I think it's actually nice. The hammer though, the Super Trustmaster, that is bad. It's straight up garbage tier for defense scaling tank damage. Now the stats on it though, for soul tanking purposes at 180 defense and spirit, they are good. And she caps out true single wield spirit and defense just by wearing the hammer, because it has the remaining 50% that she needs. So in that regard, the hammer is fine. It's a single-handed hammer, it's okay. The attack side of things, it's just that bad, because we're still using the old log formula, and that one heavily punishes defense scaling DPS that want to use or that want to do DPS, because they still have that attack value in their formula. And yeah, taking logs of these low numbers, a bad thing's gonna happen to your damage. The vision card. Sadly, the wiki didn't have the animated version of this, so all we have is just a still image. But anyway, we are here for the actual values. So 100 defense and spirit, base defense and spirit at level 10. 80 defense spirit when wearing a hammer for the 4 and 7 passives. And at level 10, you gain 20 HP defense and spirit. 25% fire, lightning, wind, earth resist for FFBE units only. Now, from my point of view, this is only really usable on herself due to the hammer restriction. There is literally no other tank that wants to use a hammer right now, and there probably will never be anyone else. So yeah, I feel like the stats, while they are split defense and spirit, they're just okay. We do have, at least for spirit, we do have Kresnik's card, which is better, and if you're using her solely as a tank, magic tank, probably Kresnik's card will fare a little bit better. But I haven't done the math. It's just my personal opinion that the Kresnik card might be better due to higher base SPR. She reaches spirit and defense caps so easily, you don't really need her card for that. Alright, and now here comes the nitty-gritty part where we are going to spend a lot of time at. So these are Maeve builds. The top one is for the base form, defense, and the bottom one is for spirit. Now, if you're watching my tanking reviews, but for the very first time, let me assure you that all the units that you're about to see, they are not meant to be geared for real purpose trials, but instead for maximizing either defense or spirit. And we are also only using their own highest buffs. In Maeve's case, that is 350% defense or spirit from the respective limit burst, that is. Is it suitable to keep this up at all times? Probably no, but that doesn't matter for the comparison because we're just comparing highest possible stats versus each other. Okay, and as you can see, Maeve is super flexible in her base form. She uses GF extension for the king, Dream of the Faith. It's, yeah, super easy. And in her Brave Shift, she does the same, Dream of the Faith for the king. I don't know why the builder didn't take GF extension for Maeve in the Brave Shift, but let's just agree that it didn't want to. I don't know. Anyway, it also the builder also used Ruined Remedy, which is Kresnik's vision card. Like I mentioned, I feel like this is the best choice. Right, so here are the other tanking builds. We're starting with the defense scaling ones first. So Aphmo, Snow, Behemoth, and Gabranth are the competitors. Yeah, there are more physical tanks. I left them out because let's just compare NV tanks here, right? And here are the magic tank competitors, Celeste, Phys, and I also included, I know, consistency and all, Beatrix, because Beatrix is one of the most popular magic tanks, so I included her in this list. But first of all, we're gonna start off with the tank comparison from the defense side of things, and this one is super loaded, as you can see. And yeah, general mitigation. So Maeve at 75% is on par with Gabranth and Aphmo, but Snow, because he has that spammable 90% general mitigation, he takes the cake. On the physical side of things, nobody does it better than Maeve. She has that permanent 65% physical mitigation, which is the highest in-game of all tanks. Even considering that Gabranth can have 80%. Physical mitigation, it's not gonna be enough. Is it actually Gabranth? Yeah, it should be. But the winner is still Maeve. Cover mitigation, she is just on par with everyone else here. So Behemoth, it technically takes the cake because his LB has a little bit higher ones. Bonus mitigation, Behemoth 50% demon mitigation, Aphmo has some mech mitigation, but Maeve has 2 at 65, so I gave the win to Maeve. Other mitigation, Behemoth has 4 stacks of Mirage, Gabranth has the Auto Revive, Snow and Aphmo have really nothing. Maeve has 5 parties Mirage stacks, and I find the 5-party Mirage stacks to be a little bit better, so that's why I gave the win to her. Moving on, I see the this thing is breaking up down at the bottom. Excuse me for that. I think it's breaking down even more because there should have been more, but I don't know. Anyway, so buffs. I gave the win to Behemoth here, just because. Well, why did I? Yeah, giving Behemoth the win isn't right. Let me fix that real quick. Alright, we're back. Excuse me for that. I actually even cut out more stuff from this table. As you can see, it rather gets bloated very quickly. So yeah, this is the correct one. So, buffs regarding stats, Maeve wins this rather easily, honestly. 350 defense, 280 to all. That's a clear win in my book. In terms of buffs, it's only a competition between Heey, who has 150% Demon Killer physical and magical for the party, versus Maeve, who has the Beast Dragon Killer only in cow available. So yeah, Heey takes this one pretty easily because of general appliances in contrast to Maeve, who only has it in Clash. Buffs, resistances, I feel like Heey and Maeve are tied. Both have all status, all breaks, statuses, immunity. So it's good. One could argue that due to Heey having all status elements that he should win this. I feel like it's a good tie though, because Stop and Charm are the most annoying ones. So I value them so high that the all status name doesn't really matter most of the time. When it comes to amplification buffs though, Maeve takes the cake. She has 30%, Heey only has 20 to the party, so that one easily goes to Maeve. And lastly, we do have the Imperil stuff. So Maeve has Earth and the Hammer Imperil, and due to the Hammer Imperil, I would rate her higher than Heey. And Afmo is also a winner here due to 135 Earth and Fire and 122 most other elements. So all in all, I felt like I should give this to both Afmo and Maeve. One could argue that the Hammer Imperil is worth more than all the other ones. I wouldn't disagree. I feel like Afmo is just... she does a lot of things that other tanks don't do, and the breaks are one of the other things. She has 83, 85 all breaks, which none of the other tanks really come close. So in regards breaks, Afmo really takes the cake. Maeve has nothing for that. Okay, now let's take a look, and I see that this... I should have checked whether all these tables break or not. So let me make another quick cut. Okay, so we are back to this. Alright, so as per usual, here we are calculating just 100 damage taken and consider their strongest buffs. Or just, yeah, the strongest mitigation buffs they have. And defense is not taken into account. And as is very expected, when not taking defense into account, Snow wins this rather easily. However, as you can see, Maeve actually does come very close, but that 90% mitigation, it's just too strong. That is a fact, can't do it better than this. However, when we take a 10 million hit into account and also count for defense, suddenly things look very, very differently. And due to Maeve being such a powerhouse in defense, 400 true single wield spirit or defense really helps in that regard. She can easily surpass Snow. And she also does more than Snow, which means that we actually have a new physical tanking queen, and that is Maeve, on every EX level. Now, comparing EX1 Maeve to EX plus 3 Snow though, yeah, Snow takes the cake. However, EX plus 1 Maeve is already stronger than EX plus 2 Snow, for example, which really tells you the story at how good she actually is. Now at EX plus 3, well, Maeve is really good in that regard. But again, this is taking really only defense to the max, not real world appliances to trials. But from a theoretical point of view, Maeve is super strong. And now let's do all of this again for Spirit. So we're comparing Celeste, Phys, and Beatrix. And regarding the physical mitigation, yeah, she technically has 65, but not really though. And yeah, so Celeste really shines here because she has that 50% at all times. Phys only on a single use Grandis. So if I were to pick a winner, and I know consistency and all, I did it for the physical deep tanks, I didn't do it for the magical tanks, I would still give this physical mitigation category to Celeste. And yeah, the general mitigation goes definitely to Beatrix, while the magical mitigation definitely goes to Phys and Celeste. There is no competition here. Cover mitigation, yeah, Maeve straight up wins. She has the best one. Other mitigation, 65B strength, so I would rather give this to Maeve than anyone else, but it's something. Buffs and stats, the usual. One thing I'd like to point out is that Phys, when it comes to resistance buffs, has so much things in store that nobody can hold up against her, and that is one of the greatest upsides of Phys, and something that you have to keep in mind when tackling trials or bosses, that Phys, while they did fall behind in tankiness, they are still super strong. But the rest, amps, yeah, Phys has fallen behind. Celeste has at 45, Ice Amp for the party, Physical Magical, Maeve 30%. Yeah, I'd give this to Celeste, honestly. But it's really a matter of preference at this point. And yeah, in Peril, Maeve wins this easily. Breaks, Phys is the only one with breaks, so no competition here. And yeah, regarding damage taken calculations, and you're seeing this already, we do have a very definitive winner, and that is Celeste. And this is what I meant earlier, that the emergency cooldown for Maeve would have meant a lot, because this calculation does not take into account her Celeste's strong limit burst mitigation. This is all that she has. And that means that Celeste at all her counts will always be better than Maeve, with one caveat, and that is EX plus 3 Maeve beats EX plus 1 Celeste. I guess you get the full picture, right? You need an EX plus 3 Maeve to barely beat Celeste. Yeah, I think if you have Celeste, I'd rather use her for magical fights than Maeve, unless I really need that Earth Amp, for example. But just strictly comparing the two in terms of tankiness and what they could theoretically do, I would pick Celeste over Maeve any day. But when it comes to actual real-world tanking appliances, there are so many things to factor in that the answer isn't as clear-cut anymore. But again, this is just pure math for the math geeks, and the theory says, or the math says, Celeste should be better. Real world, different story most of the time. So yeah, how does she fare in the meta? She's a very strong 2-in-1 tank that does both roles rather well, and there is no denying that. However, as I pointed out earlier, her greatest weakness are the passives behind 80 or 50, or lower than 80 and lower than 50% morale, as these abilities are her strongest, yet they are never available. And while she's strong in general, I feel like her usefulness in trials and Dark Vision dwindles due to killers being locked to the morale gauge, and especially also her 90% mitigation, which is also locked to morale being low. It's don't get me started on this again. But she works well as an LB battery, so I like that. And if you missed Celeste, she's a very good magic tank, but too bad we don't need those. And if you missed Snow Behemoth and or Gebranth, Maeve is also a very good defense tank, but too bad we don't use or need those either outside of Clash, obviously. So yeah, should you pull? I mean, if you want to have an easier life in Clash of Wilds, yes, that is also the primary reason why I pulled her to begin with. If you've watched my last month's rant on Clash, I'm not really interested in Clash anymore, but I still attempt to do a decent score, and I know for sure that Maeve is going to help me tremendously getting a half decent score this time around, so I don't have to be top 5k again. But also the next Clash of Wilds is supposed to be capable, so my hopes is that Maeve is going to be somewhat useful for the next Clash, and we'll see. So this could have been a good investment into the future, but we'll see. If you're severely lacking in tanks in general, yeah, you could maybe pull. There are a few good NVA substitutes though, Beatrix or Seacard being two you could name, one for the magic, one for the physical side of things. And she's not worth it at all if you just want to clear current and future trials. Please do not fall for that trap. You don't need Maeve for the current trials and not for the upcoming trials. It's just not needed. You don't need her for that. If you're neither interested in Clash nor Dark Visions or Vision World, there's no point in pulling. Phys is a superior magic tank due to the sheer amount of party support she has, as is Celeste due to the sheer mitigation strength she has. So in terms of magic tanks, I wouldn't pull for Maeve. But in terms of defense tanks, she's absolutely worth it, in my opinion. And that is it. Like I said, a rather long review. But like I also mentioned, she's a 2-in-1 unit. So basically I did 2 reviews in one today. Thank you all for watching. I hope this was helpful to you and helped you make a decision whether to pull for her or not. We'll see each other maybe today, maybe tomorrow for more Clash videos. And I'm also hoping to have enough time to do a video about units that I'm happy I have pulled. I'm still struggling with the name of the video. I haven't also recorded it yet. I've procrastinated this one for about a week. And there's also the monthly outlook for December, which I also want to do this week, but I don't think I'll be able to make it this week. We'll see how much time I have for all of this, because truth be told, I'd really like to have a day off at some point. I haven't had one in the last few weeks, and so many bad and good things alike have happened the last 2 weeks. I really could use a day off. Anyway, it's, I believe, almost 2 a.m. into Saturday. It's 1:30 a.m. into Saturday, so thank you all for watching. I'm gonna head to sleep, upload this video tomorrow, so for you it's going to be Saturday morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you're from. See you then. Peace.